Hello and welcome back here for our top 8. We made it through 6 rounds of Swiss. A lot of exciting action already today, and now the top 8 has been secured. We've got our bracket and a lot of familiar names up here. A number of people who we've already seen. Preston Stutzman taking home the number 1 seed, our lone 6-0 competitor today. Going to be taking on Brent Caughey, who we saw earlier in the afternoon. Zachary Cahan, Janice Lee, going to face off here and be our stream game. So very excited to have Janice back on stream. See the Alolan Ninetales and Baxcalibur once again. Anthony Sobel and Patrick Connors. And then Aaron Banyard and Elijah Tatum, the Clefairy Okie Dogie, might be taking it home here, Brady. What are we thinking about this top cut? Like I said, a lot of familiar names, teams we've seen, but some interesting ones.
Oh yeah, based on everything, just like how this game's, how everything kind of looks. What's gonna come into my head is, I gotta go with Preston for my money on that first seed, Preston up against Brent. The only reason why is because Preston went, X1 at Swiss, first seed, up against Brent. I just saw Preston was playing very well with the Bramble Gas. His team's very solid, so that's my personal smart money there. Next up for this current game, my smart money is on Zachary, and that's only because Zachary's team has a Goldengo, which it looks like Janice's team might not be the best well equipped to deal with it. But I'd love to see if she can offset that unfavorable matchup and try to come out on top. As for Anthony and Patrick, that's the one I'm actually very excited about. Part of me wishes that we maybe could have streamed that, but honestly, I'm very excited to bring Zachary a chance to go on stream, and also Janice, because Janice's team is really, really cool. Between those, I'd probably say Anthony, just because I saw Anthony playing so well, and I'm a very big fan. And then between Aaron, and Elijah, I gotta go with Aaron because I love the Okie Dokie,
And I heard the rumblings after the last stream game, and our suspicions were confirmed. I don't think Albert remembered Okie Dogie's abilities. So the official launch of Reg E happening today, Okie Dogie becoming legal. They took advantage of the new Mons,
Right.
the information that you might not have committed to memory just yet. And ultimately, this game, whether it's open team sheet or not, information is one of, if not the biggest components to being able to calculate your next moves and win the game.
Absolutely, actually. I'm very glad you brought that up. In my opinion, I think that information is the only factor, actually, because if I know something that you don't know, then my level of consciousness inside the game or my level of looking at the game will be completely different from your level. If you were vice versa, if you knew something that I didn't know about the game, Okie Dokie's ability, it's like, I know you're pinned down where you can't switch in your landers because I'll get that +1, whereas you don't know that. So, it's really an information game.
Well, and we saw that in the very first stream match with the fake out into a covert cloak Tornadus. However, we're a long way from that, and we are ready for our first top 8 match. This is so exciting. Unleashing the first mid-season showdown of the 2024 Pokemon VGC circuit. One of these players is going to walk away with a whopping 50 championship points and be a tenth of the way to their Worlds invites.
We see Janice with her plush over there. She's looking like she's very happy. She flexed on camera a little bit that she has a plushie and her opponent does not. So she's already starting on the aggressive, right off the bat. And she is rocking that Hail team like we saw earlier. Just to recap, we saw an Empoleon, Baxcalibur, Ninetales, Alola, Landorus, Rillaboom, and the Armorage. So her kind of general game plan from the looks of it is get Ninetales up, set up your Aurora Veil, and then get in Baxcalibur to set up. And Zachary, on the other hand, has a team of Tornadus, Ogerpon, the Hearthflame version, Reggie Draco. So that's going to be cool. That's the first time we're seeing on stream. A Gyarados, Farigiraf, and a Goldengo. So this is a hyper-offensive team coming from Zachary's, side of things versus Janice's, which is much more, sit back, set up your back Excalibur, and then start going on the offensive. So how do you think that these two teams will start to fare into each other, giving one of them wants to blow stuff up, one of them wants to kind of set up and then play the slow game?
Well, I think we got to go back to our game earlier in which Janice was on stream, where she faced the Hyper Offense, Choice Band, Terra Normal, Extreme Speed, Dragon Knight that really chunked her team and put her on the back foot, despite the fact that, that Dragonite was staring down 2 ice types in snow behind Auroravale. The offensive pressure that a lot of these Pokemon can put on, especially my pick here is the Regidrago on Zachary's side of things. Terra Steel holding the Dragon Fang. That's going to be really, really tough on Janice's side to combat.
I am looking at these team sheets right here, and I just have to put my 2 cents on Zachary because of that Goldango. So if you look at Janice's team, she has the Fire-type Armorage, which can kind of deal with it, and, also the Empoleon, which can resist one of its attacks. But, really the Goldango can do super effective damage into both your Ice types. It beats the Rillaboom in a 1v1, and it does a lot of damage to the Landorus because the Landorus is not holding the Assault Vest but holding the Choice Scarf. So if Zachary can position his Goldango inside of a way, such as under Tailwind to kind of blow through Janice's team in the right turns, I could see Zachary quickly turning the tables on this bulky setup team.
I 100% agree. It'd be interesting if we saw the Armarouge carrying Wide Guard for this matchup. However, Janice's is not. It's got Heat Wave, Dark Pulse, Psyshock, and Trick Room, which is going to put it, you've got spread moves from the Goldango, you've got spread moves from the Farigiraf, you've got spread moves from the Tornadus and the Regidrago. Something like Wide Guard, and we've seen it all day today, might be an interesting meta call to make going forward as we see Regulation E start to develop.
So, I am just, in terms of, this matchup in particular, I know we kind of, discussed, the Goldango being brought here. What do you think Janice... Oh, all right,
Ooh,
we're already here. That was quick.
Right to it. Speaking of Goldango, Zachary bringing Goldango and Tornadus. Janice opting for the Alolan Ninetales and Rillaboom to start out this top 8.
So Zachary does have the Covert Cloak, as we are able to see based on this open team sheet, meaning that the Fake Out cannot go onto the Tornadus, nor can it affect the Goldango because Goldango is a Ghost type. So, Rillaboom is not inside the position where it typically wants to be, where it can fake something out. However, Rillaboom does have access to the Stomping Tantrum, which can hit Goldango for super effective damage, so that could be kind of cool. However, if that were to come out, then that would mean that it is eating up a Make It Rain and potentially a Bleak Wind Storm for its troubles.
One thing that we don't have to worry about this time for Janice is a Rain Dance, potentially taking away the snow. Zachary's Tornadus carrying Tailwind, Bleak Wind Storm, Icy Wind, and Protect. Janice has the weather control as Make It Rain comes out, drops Goldango to -1. Rillaboom able to eat it and return a Stomping Tantrum that does over half to the Goldango. However, on the grassy terrain, it's going to get some health back.
So in terms of just value alone, you got to give it to Zachary for coming up top on this turn. If you're looking at it from a purely a value-based perspective, Zachary got up a Tailwind. Zachary got off a lot of chip on the Rillaboom, and they both took about the same amount of damage. But, Zachary got one turn of setup up on Janice, where Janice did not get up her Aurora Veil, but Zachary did get up his Tailwind. So it'll be interesting to see if Zachary is going to deny this Aurora Veil with maybe something like a Taunt, which actually, I'm looking at Team Sheet right now, Tornadus does not opt to have Taunt, so there's no way that this Tornadus can stop this Ninetales from setting up an Aurora Veil, which is exactly what it wants to do.
And it looks like Janice is going to terrestrialize the Alolan Ninetales going to Terra Water. Interesting decision. Wanted to potentially, avoid that Make It Rain from the Goldango. Bleak Windstorm is going to connect onto both the Landorus and Ninetales. And Ninetales gets up the Aurora Veil. Janice's setup is starting to come alive.
Exactly. So, what we saw there, although, technically that play did not make sense the way it currently played out in the aspect of like a Terra Water. Okay, how does this help against Tornadus? Because it's the same amount of damage. But it was to really just make sure that the Goldango was not able to knock out the Ninetales on that turn, just to ensure you get up your Aurora Veil. So I thought that was a very good play from Janice. Icy Wind does come out from the Tornadus and a Thunder Wave from the Gyarados onto the Ninetales. So, Zach's just really trying to get some speed control here in the early stages of the game. Now, the thing is, this Landorus is going to get up a Rock Slide. It has not been, it was not intimidated because the Goldango switched out before the Rillaboom did, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a neutral Rock Slide that just hit both these super effective slots.
But the Alolan Ninetales, which we've got to imagine was going to go with a Freeze Dry into either the Tornadus or Gyarados, is unable to do so. It is fully paralyzed. Landorus going to swap out, reset its Intimidate, and Janice going to go into the Rillaboom.
So Janice really just slowing this down. I like how she's playing this so far. It's basically just realizing like, okay, you're looking to mow me down with hyper offense. Well, I am just going to slow this down a little bit, and I am going to essentially make this into a game where I have more control. I'm getting, Grassy Terrain recovery. Well, you're not. I'm stalling out your Tailwind. And, it's like that defensive switch of going out from your Landorus into your Rillaboom was really cool. However, unfortunately, Janice keeps getting flinched / paralyzed, so she's not able to get off a Freeze Dry onto either of these super effective slots here.
Oh, this is... para hacks are something that are very, very frustrating to deal with. I can only, speculate because I am a chronic para-flinch. My Grimmsnarl Tyranitar team just sitting at home waiting to be unleashed as we see Thunder Wave come out into the Rillaboom. Now both Pokemon on Janice's side are paralyzed. Freeze Dry finally able to connect into the Tornadus and knock it out.
It's interesting, though, because it's a turn too late, because you wanted to knock out that Tornadus the previous turn or the turn before that.
And just, another full para.
Because, if you would have knocked out the Tornadus a previous turn, then Tailwind could have been denied, and there would have been no more Tailwind in this game, meaning that your Scarf Lando in the back, if you're Janice, should be able to outspeed Zachary's entire team. However, that is not the case, and this is the worst case scenario if you're Janice, where the Tornadus gets off one last effort, Tailwind, quickly gets it off, and then faints, because now there's 3 turns of Tailwind that she needs to prepare for, and half her team is paralyzed. Her Lando's at 32 HP, and it's not ideal if you're Janice here.
Absolutely not, and you're staring down an Ogerpon Hearthflame that is going to be able to do a lot of damage, considering it's carrying both Ivy Cudgel, which is a fire-type move for this specific Ogerpon, and Wood Hammer, which, staring across a fire and water type, that's pretty good coverage to have on the field right now.
Oh, literally, yeah. If I was Zachary, I would definitely have gone for the Grass move into the Ninetales, just to kind of, deny it from going for that Freeze Dry, kind of like those Paras denied it for all those turns. So presumably that's what came out here. Maybe there's an option for the Fire type move went into the Rillaboom slot, which is probably why Janice decided to cover that slot with her Flash Fire Pokemon.
This could be a very nice call on Janice's part if she is able to, with the Terastallization, now Mold Breaker no longer in effect. So if she goes into, or if Zachary goes into Janice's Armarouge, it's going to get the Flash Fire.
Very well played. Great play from Janice. it's not really so much that you know, you just absorb that attack. You also powered up your fire moves for the rest of the game, which she does have Heat Wave. So after you knock out this Gyarados, that might be more helpful. You know, for right now, actually, kind of, you know, it doesn't actually matter. Now I'm looking at it. It's like, sure, you stalled out that one turn. But now it's like you have a Rillaboom, which feints to the fire move, and then you have a Ninetales, which is water, which feints to the grass move. So the only way Janice can move around this, I'm presuming, is to like do some like cool baits where it's like you switch back into Rillaboom, you know, on the grass type move, and then you fake out and then bait again and switch back out into Ninetales. But that's gonna be a headache to navigate through, because this, unfortunately, like this Ceruledge, it's just not doing anything. Like, it's just like it's not doing like anything really. It's just like both of the opponents resist your fire type move, which is powered up. You know, you could maybe go for a Side Shock on the Gyarados, do some decent damage into it, but it's just not enough to KO it from that range.
I was just about to ask whether or not you think Trick Room is the move, considering she's got 2 paralyzed Pokemon left. Under Trick Room, she'll get to move faster. Oh, and the Gyarados goes for Taunt. What a great read by Zachary.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looks like Zachary was thinking exactly like what you were thinking with the Trick Room. It would have been kind of cool to maybe have seen a Side Shock onto the Gyarados on that turn, because if you would have gotten off 2 Side Shocks onto it, then it would have knocked out, and then, you know, maybe you could have had a more interesting or a safer line into that. You know, what's kind of weird here is that Gyarados can threaten your Armorage with super effective damage from the waterfall, but you cannot threaten it with super effective damage. So Gyarados switches out, though, into the Goldango, presumably to live this Side Shock, but honestly, I don't really know about this because you can smack it. Oh, wow, that just...
plus 1 attack. It, yeah, that's a no-go for Alolan Ninetales.
No, I would have liked to have maybe seen a switch in a Rillaboom there, because you could have stalled it out longer. It's like you could have played that Fire, Water, Grass game. But okay, hold on. You know, Janice actually did amazing with that. I'm very impressed with this play. So basically, both of Zachary's Pokemon are in the range of Heat Wave. So if this is maybe like a timid Ceruledge, what could maybe happen is fake out an Ogerpon, and then you can go for Heat Wave, knock out Goldango, if it's like not a timid max speed Goldango, that is. And then you can just spam Heat Wave for the rest of the game, basically, and then you might be able to win this.
With the Tailwind petering out, this is going to be a big turn to find out whether or not this Armarouge does outspeed the Goldango. At the end of the day, at least it'll be good information going into Game 2. Ogerpon predicting the fake out, goes for Spiky Shield. Goldango is both faster than the Armarouge, but the Armarouge hangs on. Heat Wave protected by the Ogerpon, gonna connect into Goldango and knock it out.
So let's dissect this down. So that doesn't matter. That's actually good for Janice, yeah. So let's break this down a little bit. If you're Ogerpon, do you target the Armarouge or do you target into the Rillaboom? Because if you target the Armarouge, what kind of happens is that Rillaboom, you know, would probably knock you out, and then it's a Gyarados versus Rillaboom in game, and I think Rillaboom probably wins that because there's only Waterfall to attack with Gyarados. But likewise, if you target into the Rillaboom, maybe there's like a chance that like Heat Wave like crits, or maybe the Psyshock somehow knocks out Gyarados. Like, you know, I actually kind of looking at this, you know, if you're Zachary, you should always target into the Rillaboom. Like, the only way you can mess it up is if you target the Armarouge right here.
Yes, no, I fully agree. Go on the offensive here, try and wrap up this game 1, take out the Rillaboom, and then use your Gyarados Waterfall to knock out the Armarouge. Ivy Cudgel going into the Rillaboom, that should be enough, and it is easily enough to knock out the Rillaboom. Now this will also be good to know. The Gyarados is faster than the Armarouge, takes it out, and Zachary taking game 1.
So, okay, a few things to note from that. Number 1, the importance of Grassy Glide. Grassy Glide, if Janice did have Grassy Glide on her Rillaboom, which she does not, like let's just say if she did have Grassy Glide, that would have been 1,000,000% different. And, don't get me wrong, I totally, get Janice's move slots. She has Brick Break, presumably to hit, King Gambit and, that tech on a fight, like a fighting move. But the opportunity cost of running Brick Break is that you're not running Grassy Glide, which Grassy Glide could have theoretically have won you that end game. If you just were able to because you just needed that tiny bit of extra damage onto the Ogre Pawn, so you could have Grassy Glided it and then won the end game. So that's just just little tiny things. If I lost that situation, I'd be like, okay, what went wrong? Maybe I could have had a different choice on my Pokemon. And also to give credit, where it's due. I thought Zachary played that pretty well. With the using Gyarados to disrupt so much instead of early game or the mid game, it was just able to essentially just be a nuisance. It shut down the Trick Room. It got off 2 Thunder Waves, and it was just so hard to eliminate. It ended up being the Pokemon to take the final knockout as well.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Gyarados, we've seen a number of original 151 Generation 1 Pokemon today. Snorlax didn't make its presence felt in-game, but it was on the team sheet. Dragonites, Gyarados, we are, it's kind of crazy to think that now we've got over 1,000 Pokemon, and some of these early ones are still hanging around with the best of them.
Right. Yeah, technically, Ninetales, for example, even though, it's a different variant, it's a different form. Technically, it's kind of up there, not really Gen 1, but, Gen 4, Empoleon. That's pretty classic, that was 2009, that was a while ago. So it's kind of cool seeing, a lot of these, older Pokemon doing well, especially knowing that power creep does exist inside Pokemon, because they don't really patch Pokemon, they don't, lower their base stats or anything, or adjust them. So power creep is a persistent issue with all these new Pokemon games coming out. So it's very cool to see some lesser or early generation Pokemon still doing well despite all that power creeping that keeps on happening.
And now as we get ready for Game 2 of our first top 8 match, we've got Tornadus and Ogerpon, and we see the Alolan Ninetales and Baxcalibur on the side for Janice Lee.
So I gotta say, I think that this Baxcalibur is very smart here because it has the ability to just be a physical wall, number 1, which is nice for the Ogerpon. But number 2, it's you can hit into the Tornadus for super effective damage. So it's you knock out Tornadus, you don't take a lot of damage from the Ogerpon because you have up Snow. And all in all, you kind of just create yourself a solid board. Now, the one thing I would be a little bit worried about is if I were to knock out Tornadus and then if they were to get off a Tailwind or something, maybe potentially Goldango could come in and just go for a Terra Steel, make it rain, and just get some knockouts. We do see a double protect, though, from Zachary.
Very interesting decision, especially when staring down an Alola Ninetales who most of the time wants to try and set up the Aurora Veil for the rest of the game. Zach was free to just, he was like, okay, if that happens, it happens. But Janice opted to switch into the Landorus, get the Intimidate on the Ogerpon, and now we're going to see a terrestrialization on the side of Zach. I got to imagine it is the Ogerpon. It is to get that attack back to neutral and see whether or not it can knock one of these two out.
Yeah, so Ogerpon getting its attack quickly buffed up. Now, what's interesting about this is that if you're the Ogerpon player, you probably don't want to attack into Baxcalibur, right? Because number 1, you have the Goldango in the back to cover for it anyways.
Ooh!
Wow. Number 2, that's okay, so that's good to know. And then number 3, it's if you go for a fire type move in the Baxcalibur, then obviously it just gets its attack boosted up, and you don't want that. Wow, that is just that is not unfair. That just one hit knocked out a Landorus. What?
Now, if it was at +1, okay, yeah, I feel a little bit better about accepting that. However, I had already
that was neutral, right?
Yeah, it was just normal, no boosts, neutral attack just wipes that Landorus off the board.
Like, what is... You know, whatever.
Hey, we were talking about Ogre Pond and which one to go with.
Okay, yeah.
However,
Fire's the one.
I think Fire might be the move.
Because, like, you're right. Like, who needs to hit Landorus for super effective damage if you can just knock it out anyways with, like, a Fire one?
Great play by Janice Lee, protecting the Baxcalibur, able to get the Trick Room up, and now she, with the Tailwind on the other side of the field for Zachary, will be able to move first.
So the one thing that's kind of weird here is if you click Scale Shot, then you kind of limit yourself a little bit because you will speed up your Baxcalibur, and you don't really want that inside Trick Room. So, you know, Janice kind of probably wants to go for the Icicle Spear, or Icicle Spear into Tornadus. However, you don't really want to do that. You want to knock out the Ogre Pond with the Dragon type move, but unfortunately, it does not look like you can. Yeah, and all it takes is two. Don't need anything else. Just two of those real quick. You get that knockout. Let's see if this goes into. Actually, honestly, this whole board is kind of walled by this, by what Janice created here. So this will do a decent amount of damage, but it's going to power up backs, and also with the snow, it's not going to do a lot of damage. Like, okay, that was a lot. That was a lot. That was definitely a lot. However, you know, also consider the fact that now this Excalibur has an extra attack stat, and the Ogre Pond is in range of Size Shock. So, you know, this seems very straightforward if I was Janice here. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. I'm looking at this, and we watched Janice initially click into Protect, but this feels very interesting. Like, go for it. You got your 4 turns. Make them count.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe like a Size Shock onto the Ogre Pond, and then something like an Icicle Spear onto the Regidrago. However, right, like, okay, so it didn't matter. Nope. Zachary went for the double protect, but now this upcoming turn, Janice seems like she has a very free window here to just get double knockouts, and absolute worst case, this Size Shock does not pick up the knockout because you may be low roll into the Ogre Pond, which probably won't happen, but let's just say if that were to happen, then you knock out the Regidrago, and then Zachary can only get one knockout, being one of the Baxcalibur or the Armorogue, and Zachary cannot knock out both of Janice's Pokemon.
I think Janice's hesitation is whether or not the Baxcalibur is going to outpace the Regidrago. Now, in the last turn, the Zach had Tailwind. Tailwind has now petered out. She's withdrawing the +3 Baxcalibur in favor of the Alolan Ninetales, potentially reading a Dragon Energy and resetting the snow.
So this could go really bad if this does not knock out, which it does, so that's good. The only thing is you're going to be losing your Armorogue here because you should be eating up a Dragon Energy. I get the Ninetales switch in, like, yeah, it's kind of cool. You definitely allow yourself to...
It's the straight Dragon Pulse, and Armarouge is able to hold on. Interesting. I'm thinking Zax was pretty sure that he was going to outspeed that Baxcalibur.
Maybe, like, I have no idea. Like, because Baxcalibur should be, like... Because they always go max speed on Regidrago, unless this Baxcalibur...
it's a dedicated Trick Room.
Right, like, unless this Baxcalibur is, like, a max speed Jolly because of maybe, you know, it outspeeds something with Scale Shot. Maybe she knows something that we don't. So, you know, that could be considered. But, you know, if the Baxcalibur was traditionally trained like Bulk, like, you should just be able to have clicked, like, Ice Spin, or, what is it, Icicle Spear there. But you know what? She probably knows something that we don't know. She does connect on Goldango, misses the knockout.
Critical hit onto the Regidrago. Dragon Energy not going to affect the Alolan Ninetales, but will pick up the KO on the Armarouge. And I've got a feeling this Alolan Ninetales is not long for this match. As Make It Rain knocks it out. And you know, Brady, I think this game kind of goes back to our point when Anthony was on stream. how do you lose? And unfortunately, I think Janice played herself into a position that all but guaranteed that she was going to lose this game too.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate because you know, I think that we both thought that Janice pretty much had this on wraps. Like maybe like the Baxcalibur is max speed. That might be a part of the equation that we have not considered. I guess just like what's kind of just like weird about this is like it just really felt like Janice was able to win because she could have gotten a knockout into both Pokemon. That Trick Room was very brilliant. It was a great play from Janice. So you know we'll have to figure this out. Although I think that you know if all goes according to how this Pokemon or how these Pokemon are traditionally trained, like Goldango's probably max speed. You're just gonna go for Make It Rain anyways and should just knock out straight away.
It is -1 now. This play, I agree with. You've got to take your chances with scale shots to then try and make sure that you outspeed the Goldango in the next turn.
Oh, she attacked. Oh, okay, maybe looking for
either way, trying to make sure that she gets to be faster. Now she's going to Terra, remove the Dragon weakness. Now, Regidrago holding the Dragon Fang, still going to be a boosted Dragon-type stab attack. Goldango's Make It Rain connects, and that is all she wrote. Zachary Cahan going to move on to top 4. Congratulations. That one, it felt like could have gone the other way for most of the match, but in the end, Zachary able to move on and secure the first spot in our top 4.
So, you know, like, we are kind of on the money with my original prediction. If you remember, I said I think Zachary would probably come out on top just because that Goldango, as we saw, was able to put in a lot of effective work inside both Game 1 and Game 2. You know, I honestly was expecting a Game 3, given how that was currently going. However, Janice probably has her Baxcalibur trained like in max speed, and she probably thought that she outsped the Regidrago normally, which would mean that under Trick Room, the Regidrago would outspeed the Baxcalibur. So that was probably what was going on inside of her head. You know, and I get that. I've also had a moment like that, like, you know, like under pressure where like I've clicked a button that I did not, you know, really, if I was thinking like absolutely like perfectly straight, then, you know, I would have clicked something else. That happened to me like at, you know, regionals, like where I've traveled like across the whole country to play in. It's the pressure. It really does get to you, especially fatigue after playing an entire day. You know, it's like that happens. Like that's part of the game. But you know what? Like we get back up, and Janice, come back up next time. I'm sure you're gonna do great. I hope to see you, you know, win one of these events. Regardless, great job, and you know, thank you for playing. So Zachary made top 4. He's our first top 4 person.
Absolutely. I think he's got an interesting team. Now we'll see our other top 4 contestants here in a few minutes. We are going to head off to break, and ultimately when we come back, we'll have our top 4 bracket secured and be ready to talk about them. We'll see you right back.
See you then.